Hello, guys, and welcome to What to Tech episode number 48. My name is Adam Lobo.
And I'm Vernon. Great to be back in a
Yep,
different time zone.
exactly. So, different time zone, different environment. We are trying this kind of format for situations where I'm not around, because most of the time when I'm not around, we cancel the What to Tech episode. So, hopefully, that if this one goes very smoothly and very well, then moving forward, I'll bring my microphone and make everything nice and clean lah. Because currently I'm outside in London, right after Unpacked, because of the whole situation of the whole world situation. I'm sure you guys know by now. So what happened is that we had to divert to Munich, and from Munich, I'm here at London for a special event, which I cannot announce just of yet. So stay tuned for that. But this week's episode is going to be a dedicated episode for Samsung's Unpacked. You know how it is, Vernon, is that whenever a lot of events happens, we tend to get very excited. So right now, when the dust is settled, we are still excited. But one of the things that I wanted to make sure is that I wanted to go through everything nicely, digest everything, which I'm sure you have already digested as well. And then we would like to discuss on your thoughts and my thoughts as well. And at the same time, really going through every feature and really explaining in detail of what I have experienced and, of course, based on what you've seen.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
we're going to be starting off with the very first one, which is the reactions. I guess one of the main things that I actually went for the event and I was really excited was, of course, the whole entire series. I was also looking for the fact that whether or not we would see one more thing kind of thing, but that
Right.
didn't happen.
Yes. We talked about that, but yeah, unfortunately, that didn't happen.
So if there was a one more thing, what do you think? Do you think that they might have unveiled the the S26 Edge, or do you think that it was a totally separate product, or you were like me who thought that nothing is going to be coming?
Yeah, I mean, we did talk about this during the previous podcast where, since the S26 Plus was in the lineup, we thought that the Edge would not be in, and sure enough, when they released the entire family, the Edge was missing. However, I think the question is, will Samsung actually release the Edge maybe later in the year as a staggered release? Um, just to focus on the S26 family proper for now. And of course, we know that the Ultra is the headliner of the entire family. But maybe the Edge will still come. We'll still see the S26 Edge further along the lines of this year, maybe in summer, where people have stopped kind of talking about the S26 per se. So you keep the interest going, and you have a staggered release instead. What do you think about that? I mean, as opinion.
I think for me, I might think, or I probably think, is the fact that I don't think the Edge will come out this year, because if they really wanted the Edge to come out, they would already announce it in a way. I might be wrong. Number two is that because the Edge did not do a very good response, or did not get a good response for the last year's model, which I don't think is the fact that the phone was not good. It's more the fact that it was not available
Availability. Yeah.
globally. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I think that
exactly.
if it was available globally, then it was fine. But it was not available globally. Anyway, when I was heading to the event setup was really beautiful. It
As
was done at
always, so with
yeah,
every Unpacked
yeah,
it's always huge and beautiful and
yeah.
mind-blowing. So
The outdoor exterior was nice, but also the interior, meaning like the whole event. I like the fact that there was a lot of experiential zone areas. It wasn't very small. I think compared to last year's Unpacked, this time around was very well thought out, very well put. Being at the event itself is, of course, a different experience compared to watching it on TV. And the overall atmosphere and the response over there at Unpacked was really good. What's nice is that right after the event, I got to do the unboxing of the S26 Ultra. Did a different style of unboxing, as you saw. In case you guys haven't seen it, do check it out. It's already up on all of our social platforms. And then I got
for context, where was this held? Where was Unpacked held in San
so it
Fran?
was held in this place called the Palace of Fine Arts, if I'm not mistaken. That's the exact name. But it's basically a very nice venue which shows a like very old school venue. What's interesting is that right above it is a bridge which actually crosses towards the Golden Gate Bridge as well. Last
nice.
year, when all of us was passing by the Golden Gate Bridge to take photos, I remember that we all was asking, I think it was Gwen and I was asking, hey, what is that? Because it looks so cool. Then they mentioned it, but who would have thought that after 1 year we come back and then we see it. So it's a very, very nice venue. So I really think that it's a nice change for what exactly that they have to offer this year around. Another great thing is the fact that because we were staying right in the middle of the city compared to last year, it was in San Jose. After unboxing, we got tons of pictures, tons of videos, which means that other than the first impressions video that you saw on our channel, we'll be doing in-depth reviews based on the cameras, based on the pictures taken in San Francisco City, and of course the videos as well, which is very exciting. So yeah, all in all, it was not an Unpacked where it was like super exciting from a hardware perspective, but we'll talk about the hardware perspective in a very short moment. But let us first talk about the overall software things, because I think that will be one of the main things, right? Because of course, every single year there's that one comment where everybody said there's, it's the same phone, but different year kind of thing. But I would say that I would totally disagree on that, because on the fact that, Agentic AI is here, we kind of already spoke about Agentic AI and what is it and how is it different. Now, for those of you who missed it, Agentic AI is a bit more proactive compared to being reactive. Currently, like you have your LLMs like ChatGPT and all, where you have to tell a command and then it does it. So Agentic AI is, but Agentic AI is a bit more
Autonomous?
autonomous, and also it becomes a bit more proactive, and that's what Samsung is trying to do with the S26 series. The main thing is that we want to talk about the main software additions. One of the latest software addition, first and foremost, is Circle to Search 3.0. Now, of course, Circle to Search has not been a Samsung exclusive. It has always been tied to Google, but they have always been the first one to introduce this. So this 3.0 version means that you do not need to circle anymore. And compared to last year's Circle to Search, which you can also kind of use your screen to record your screen and see what you see on the screen.
Right.
The difference between last generation and the current generation is that 3.0 can go up to 3 different objects, which means that if you
simultaneously.
Yes. So for example, just say like right now I'm sitting here, I have a jacket, I have a t-shirt, I have my specs because my contact lens finished already. And also I'm actually wearing a wired earbud from Samsung. So imagine that when you have that for the Circle to Search, you get to ask about all 3 of the items at the same time, as opposed to just circling one or even asking what's on the screen one.
So the feature is still called Circle to Search, even though you don't physically need to Circle to Search.
Yeah.
Did they think about changing the name of the feature? Or?
Yeah, actually you have a good point, because I think I know why they did it, because they wanted to just say that, look, it's an advanced version of Circle to Search, but if you're not technically circling, then yeah, you're right. It's not supposed to be called Circle per se. But I think the reason why is because it's the context of searching things online, right? Or searching on what's exactly on the screen. At first, I was a bit confused on what exactly it did. And like I said, when things are a bit more fresher in the head, you'll be like, there's too many information. And I'm glad that right now the proper context about Circle to Search is the fact that you can go up to 3. If you had to predict that if there's a Circle to Search 4.0, does this mean that it's going to be upgrading for one more, or what do you think?
I don't know. I guess one of the interesting features that, not specific to Samsung, but like Gemini and how Gemini Live works. You don't have to circle anything. You just basically ask it in terms is basically more like a visual and audio search. And that as a whole is incredibly useful rather than you need to physically search something or circle something. You can just point the camera and just start shooting and ask it, and it'll understand context or where you are and whatever you're pointing at. So I think that would be very good.
Yeah.
In terms of where we want to take it for search. Yeah. So yeah, I think we talked. I think the keynote talked a lot about AI, and I think you have a lot to talk about AI as well.
Yeah. So the next thing after circle to search is the semantic search. And now, of course, the semantic search is like, for example, the now nudge. I've actually tested on the demo area on how now nudge works. So for context, what happens is that I think that this kind of feature is a feature whereby you really need to use the phone for at least a week or two. Whereby, for example, if you're looking for best roti canai in PJ, if you actually got that to search before, if you are searching in 2 weeks' time and go like, hey, I'm hungry, what would you recommend? It will actually go through your searches and say that, oh, based on your last searches, here are the areas that I feel like you should go, because this would be very beneficial, because sometimes we forgot that we actually search for this particular restaurant, or maybe you're looking for baby friendly place or even pet friendly places. And what's cool is that the moment that you go into the text box, it will also give you like different search results as well.
Right.
So the suggestions on the now nudge works when it comes to conversations, which is great. So for example, imagine later down this year and you go like, hey, what date did we actually, had our podcast session in London and Malaysia? And then it hopefully will go into your calendar. Yeah, it will know. And then that kind of result will come out. Or, like for example, based on my schedule, you'll ask, hey, are you free to do the podcast on a certain day? And before I can even say yes, when you go to the text box, it will actually tell you.
Give you some
give you context to actually immediately go into the overall calendar. Now, speaking of calendar, the biggest thing that I need to know is that I know it works on Samsung Calendar, and also it works on the on the Messages app. As of now, because Samsung Calendar can sync with Google, so hopefully it works both ways. But this is something, like I said, we need to use the phone every single day for at least 2 weeks.
Right.
It's been a hectic, crazy season here for me for the past few days. Not season, but few days. I think when I go back to Malaysia on the 8th of March, and then I can finally put my regular SIM in and use it, and to really find out after a month's time. So now nudge is...
So with all these features, the question would also be, how much of your personal data do you give access to, to your phone and to Samsung and to the AI per se? Because obviously for it to have insight and give you suggestions and stuff like that, it needs to know a lot of things about you. It needs to know, you need to have access to your calendar, your messages, and whatever else that you're doing around the phone. So is this something that we can control, or is this something that once you're logged in, you're open to giving AI all this access?
Based on what I've gathered is that there is a permission that you need to give. In the end of the day, it's Samsung providing the platform, whether or not you want to go forward and let it be available. I think, in my humble opinion, with Samsung Knox, it has always been a very good security platform. And since this is basically on device, even though that, you have this access to the calendar and stuff, some people who are a bit more skeptical on your data being shared, then probably you just have to turn off the now nudge, which you can turn it off at the Galaxy AI settings. But for me, I am one of those people who don't care about the whole data sharing thing.
I mean, as long as it's useful to you, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So for me, it's not like I'm planning world domination, right? So for me, I'm totally okay with sharing my data as long as it makes my life easier. So like, Chris, who's my wife, she was like, hey, go check out this duck place in Chinatown. I'm like, okay. So imagine that if I forgot what's the name of the duck place, and I actually already forgot. See, there you go. I think it's called Four Seasons or something. See, so when I type that in, based on the conversation, it can already kind of, already know that. So for me, it makes my life easier. So why not? But I get what you mean by some people may be a bit more skeptical on that. So I guess our advice is that if you're a bit more skeptical on the now nudge feature, then you can always easily turn it off. But yes, there will be like a prompt to ask you for permissions, just like how when you download an app, they'll ask you for locations and stuff like that. It is the similar case as well. Another feature which was a bit more interesting was the fact that there was this, hold on, let me just take a look on the notes.
There's quite a bit of creative stuff that.
Yeah. So besides okay, we can talk about the creative stuff first because I don't see in the notes the horizontal lock. I don't know what is in there. Anyway, let's talk about the Creative Studio. Now, the Creative Studio was interesting. I wouldn't say it was like a mind-blowing feature. Even among all the videos that I posted, the Creative Studio feature was the lesser of the views because
it's basically more like a fun thing and it's not really useful per se.
It is fun, but I don't think that everybody uses stickers. Like I never use stickers.
It's a little bit like this gimmicky thing that Apple did with Image Playground kind of thing. It's not spectacularly useful. It's a little bit fun, but that's about it. Right?
I guess that's the reason why. But I think it will be useful for certain people. I guess it all comes down to certain individuals. But in case you all do not know that the Creative Studio means that you can prompt whatever to create a sticker. But compared to what Apple did on Image Playground, you can also create like sets of stickers.
Yeah, and I love that. I saw that.
So that is cool. That I feel is cool because, especially like you want to create a set of a school theme, a doctor's theme and stuff like that. And of course, that is great. And also like the option of them giving you ways to also create greeting cards and stuff like that, which is also nice so that, you kind of like make it easier and it also eliminates subscriptions or websites like Canva Pro, for example, where you have all of this built into your Galaxy device.
Sorry, Canva.
It's all good. I don't see the notes here, but I want to talk about this particular feature, which it was unexpectedly became viral more than the privacy feature, the display, which we'll talk about this in a short moment. Because I really do not see it here. I do not know why, but it's okay. So the horizontal lock was a very interesting feature whereby if you were to shoot both horizontally and vertically, or horizontal or vertically, it will lock the focus. And what happens is that the reason why that happens is because it's using the entire sensor size of the 200 megapixel camera, because compared to like Vivo and Oppo, who is doing 200 megapixel on the telephoto lens, Samsung is doing on the main lens, which is a good thing. And what happens is that when you take a video, when you turn the phone, it actually locks the video thing, which means that if you are shooting,
so you're constantly in horizontal.
Yeah, so it works both horizontal and also landscape position. I see this to be very easy when it comes to shooting around. Like for example, you don't have to worry about your hands becoming very straight. I think this could be very useful when it comes to concerts as well, because you're jumping and you have the horizontal unlock.
Yeah.
Although I still think that when you go to concerts, you must concentrate on the artist a bit more. But as a musician, I'm saying that. But of course, as a user, a lot of people would like to bring their phones and jump around. So I want to get your opinion. Why do you think that this particular feature gotten a better response compared to everything else? Everything else. Like we thought that the privacy feature was going to be the main thing, but eventually it was not.
I feel that it's because it's so visually impressive. And then you've got KOLs doing this.
Yeah.
in their videos.
I wanted to do it too, but
with,
then because,
with the mirror. And I think this feature, we first saw it with, I think it was DJI or GoPro, where you had this horizontal lock on their gimbals.
Yeah.
And it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. It's great for action type of videos. And I think it would be great for content creators. So for me, I thought this was one of two biggest hardware features for the S26 family this time around, aside from the privacy display, which
Alright.
we will talk about. And I feel
Let's talk about that next,
also a
because
hero
I just
feature.
realized that my battery is like 16% or about
Oh, really?
Yeah. So anyway, no man, if it gets like maybe about 10%, then we will just resume it after I charge the laptop. The next question, I mean, since we're talking about privacy display, let's talk about a privacy display for a moment. World's first privacy display.
Who
Is
would
this
have
a
thought,
feature?
right?
Yeah, who would have thought about this particular thing? And hold on, yeah.
I think if there could be...
wait. The privacy display is actually under the who asked for this. So
Yeah,
let's bring the privacy display a bit later.
Sure.
Other than the horizontal lock for video, we can finally talk about the hardware upgrades. So give us the lowdown on the hardware updates, Abang.
I mean, the biggest... Okay, I remember us talking about this, especially the S26 Ultra in our previous episode, where we asked, if there were features that we want to see in an Ultra, what would they be, right? How will we define an Ultra? And I think I said it would be the display. It would be a slightly better camera. And it needs to have a feature that's not available on the other S26 models.
Yeah.
And I also said it will have the biggest battery. It will have the fastest wired and wireless charging. Okay. And I think they delivered on all counts. We've got the privacy display, which is the only thing that in the family the Ultra has, and no other model has, which is great. They've improved on the camera, where the aperture is now better from f1.7 to f1.4, still a 200 megapixel for the main camera. They've bumped up wired charging to 60 watts. I know it's not the fastest in the world, but I feel it's still an upgrade. I'm not a fan of like super fast charging either, so I guess Samsung is also playing the safer route in terms of maybe saving on the battery per se. And hardware wise, I know there's not a lot to talk about, but I feel the upgrades are incredibly practical.
Yeah.
Would
So
you
how
say
do you
so? Would
answer?
agree?
I was okay with the upgrades. Of course, we want like a bigger battery. I think that would be my personal favorite. But I'm okay with this because of the fact that Samsung's battery has always been one of the best. Probably not like crazy, but it's been good. As long as it can last like 1.5 days, I'm totally okay with it. For heavy use, it's still 1 day, so I have no issue with it. But how do you answer people who have been complaining, like I said, the ones who said same phone, different year kind of thing? Now that you feel like it's decently enough, but if someone come up to you and tell you that, how would you respond to them?
I feel the Ultra has the biggest feature bump. I know for the S26, that will be hard to answer in terms of answering, consumers who are saying, it's pretty much the same phone as last year and blah, blah, blah. I understand that. And again, I would say that for manufacturers, it really is difficult to reinvent the wheel every single year. And it's just not practical and it's just not possible. Iterative upgrades will be the kind of story that every single manufacturer will go through. However, when you talk about debuting new features and hardware, I think the S26 Ultra answers all the questions. Even though I would say not everyone will appreciate privacy display and not everyone will appreciate horizontal lock on the video. But the other upgrades, I think they're practical and they're worthwhile for an upgrade. Let's say if you're an S24 Ultra user at the moment, you would want to upgrade and it will still be a good upgrade. Yeah.
Okay. From a hardware perspective, I think one of the biggest discussions is, of course, the fact that both baseline and the Plus is using the Exynos chipset.
For Malaysia, right? For Malaysia,
The thing,
right?
the thing is that
In
is
the US, they're still using the
yeah, correct, for Malaysia. But
Snapdragon.
the question is that I was shocked because it's a 2 nm process
yes.
compared to 3 nm process. So
Yes.
we might see like a crazy leap of performance. So that is something that we all want to see.
I guess performance, when you want to define performance, it will not be raw power.
Yep.
Maybe it's in terms of battery efficiency and thermal management.
Yeah.
It will be a much cooler chip because 2 nanometers, right?
Yeah.
They didn't really mention about NPU, so maybe it's got a better NPU. Who knows, right? For all the AI features. Again, we've always talked about this, the Exynos versus the Snapdragon. We've done this debate all along. But essentially, in the baseline, I don't think it matters too much to the consumer per se. The tech enthusiasts and the techies will probably debate it, but I think the everyday consumer is not going to be too bothered about whether it's an Exynos or
now the thing is that I only have the Ultra, I don't have the Plus and the S26. Hopefully when I go back to Malaysia, then I can immediately get it.
I mean, you play with all the devices, right? How do you feel in terms of how they feel in hand, how well they build?
I didn't. Okay, that's a good question, because my first impressions is that the S26 Ultra definitely is lighter and it feels lighter. Yeah. So that is the biggest thing that I actually noticed, because
lighter
they already came up. Yes,
lighter
because they no more titanium anymore already. So they actually went with aluminum at the sides as a frame as well. That was my biggest impressions. I didn't get to play with the S26. I just held it and the S26 Plus, but I didn't get to use it, obviously. I didn't get to test it extensively because of the amount of people over there. The only thing that I got to test out is all the software kind of features. But yeah, so that's the reason why I said that when I go back to Malaysia, hopefully I can use it as my phone daily, like how we do for in-depth reviews. So
my question to you, titanium versus aluminium.
I don't care.
Which would you prefer, and what are the pros and cons of each?
I mean, the obvious pros and cons would be durability, and of course the durability on titanium would be so much better, but which means that it will become a heavier device at this point in time, since we are going towards like more lighter phones. Do I prefer a lighter phone? So I do prefer a lighter phone. So I'm with the aluminum design, and I've been using the aluminum design with this phone so far. No bumps and scratches.
Dissipation? Titanium traps heat and aluminium will dissipate better.
Very good question, because I can't test that because it's super cold.
It's super cool. Yeah.
So it's like I want to play Genshin Impact outside in the sun, so it is never becomes. So I think we go back to Malaysia. Then only we get to test that. Okay, let's go into the who asked for this.
Right.
So this time around, the who asked for this is more of a serious thing, because I really want to know from your opinion.
Yeah.
This particular privacy thing, the privacy display from Samsung. People like me and you, we don't have the screen protector. But for me, it has been something whereby like you didn't know you need it until you got it. But what are your thoughts about this? And who asked for this?
I know some people who have privacy screen protectors. Like my wife has one installed. And for some people, it's important because you don't want people peeking over the shoulder and looking at your IG feed or checking out your messages, and while you're trying to do a money transfer via a banking app, you don't want people peeking over the shoulder and looking at all your personal details. And I feel that this feature is super useful. And I never expected it, and I don't think anybody expected it, and that's why it's such a good surprise. And the way they executed it, I feel, is brilliant. Who would have thought it's at hardware level and at pixel level, how they executed it? I think it's brilliant. And it's not just an entire screen where you can have it private. You can have parts of the screen where you want, blocked out. That's super freaking amazing. And
you can also do it on specific apps as well, which is
exactly
really good.
automatically,
so
right?
Yeah, automatically you can do it.
Set it.
Yeah. So when you go to the home screen, so for example, you use it on WhatsApp, and then after that, like, or on Messages app, or even the calendar, entering a password. Um, like, I personally didn't ask for that, but knowing the fact that it's here,
I know.
I'm going to use it. So I'm going to show you how it works.
Okay, wait. Do you think since the technology is available now and Samsung has executed it brilliantly, will you see it in other phones? I mean, again, Samsung is the one who develops all the displays, right? So will we see it on an Apple device? We will see it on a Xiaomi. We will see it
we will see it firstly on an Honor phone. And then they'll rename it to something different and they'll call it theirs.
Privacy screen.
Yeah. So I just want to quickly show it. This is the privacy display. So right now you can see it in every angle, right? So when I turn it on,
so good.
And then there's also maximum privacy as well. So which means that if you feel like there's a toggle here, so you can actually take it out. So you can still get a privacy, but it's darker, but not so much darker.
Right.
Yeah. So that is privacy display.
Are we saying RIP to all the screen protector makers of privacy screens?
Not completely, because it's not available on their current phones. So people will still be getting it.
Everyone needs to buy an S26 Ultra. I think that's a good point.
So that is the final thing which I want to talk to you about. What are your thoughts of it only be available on the Ultra though?
No, I think it's brilliant. I mean, it is the hero product and they are trying to skew everyone to go buy an S26 Ultra. Also, I think the promos are brilliant.
The promos are really good. Yeah.
If you stack the discounts, you're getting 1,500 ringgit off and you're getting double the storage, which is 512 gigabytes for 5,999. I think it's a brilliant promo. And I think it's a good time. I think it's a good time for S26 Ultra for somebody to pick it up.
Yeah.
If they want a really flagship device at the moment.
Okay. So my battery is already 8%. I don't want to ruin this whole entire thing. So we will close this particular podcast since it's more of a dedicated podcast for the whole entire Samsung Unpacked. Before we say bye-bye, I want everybody to together wish Abang Vernon happy birthday because he's doing this. He's doing this on his birthday. So what a podcast. Birthdays I have to work, kasihan the boy.
Yeah.
But for those of you who did not know, we released a bunch of videos on YouTube, YouTube on Samsung on this particular, it was just the first impressions, but bunch of socials. So if you guys are not following us on the social media platforms on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok, we have posted everything, especially every single features as well. And that concludes a very unique episode of episode 48 of What a Tech. My name is Adam Lobo from London.
My name is Vernon from Malaysia. See you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.